Hey everyone, April 11th, and it's time for tip of the day. Today I want to talk about targeting flounder with a float rig. Now when you hear float rig, most people assume trout fishing. Now you do catch flounder while you're just trout fishing, as well as the reds and drum and other things, but there is a way you can target the flounder specifically with the float. First thing is, the area you're going to fish, it usually needs to be sandy, slower current, so you get a nice drift with the float. If it's rocky bottom, you really can't set the float where you need to target these flounder without getting hung up. You know, fishing for over 25 years on a pier, fishing 25 foot up above the fish, you learn a lot of things and how they sit. And when you watch the flounder, when you can see them feed, when they go after the bait, I mean, most of the time they're just one little pop and they got the bait. So when we're float fishing for them, we can lower the float right down to them, the live bait, and you'll see them grab it. So what I would do if I was you and you want to do that, you have your float rig. The main thing you need to do is the spot you're fishing, you have a knot that stops the float. You deepen that. You deepen it all the way down until the float, when you drop the line in the float, if it's an unweighted float, it will lay over. That means you're on the bottom. If it's a weighted float, it won't lay over, but it'll sort of bob side to side. Okay. Once you found the bottom, take that knot and shallow it up. You literally want that float set to where the weight is maybe a foot off the bottom. Once you find that, then you're set. And with trout, we like to use a longer leader. With the flounder, I shorten that leader usually to a foot, foot and a half, if not shorter, when using live shrimp. If I'm using a mud minnow or a mullet on the float rig, as crazy as it sounds, it works great. I've done it multiple times. I shorten the leader even more because that minnow or mullet will tend to try to swim up off the bottom, whereas the shrimp, they usually drag along the bottom anyways when you're that deep. And how you know a flounder hits? When you're float fishing, that float will just stop and it'll sink. If it usually stays in that one spot and there's no snags in the area, you have a flounder on. If you're using live shrimp, you don't really have to let it sit that long with it. You can usually just set the hook because they inhale it. With a mullet or mud minnow, I might give them a little bit longer and then set the hook. And the rig is the same rig. I just use, if I know I'm going specifically after a flounder, I might move the leader from 15 pound up to 20, because flounder do have some pretty sharp teeth. And I use a number 4 wide bend. I'm going to show you the rig I use, and I hope this helps y'all out. And if y'all catch any flounder this way, let me know. I like to help people out, and I hope it helps you out. So this is the float. I use a little trout float. Number 4 wide bend right there. It's a shorter leader. If this was my trout leader, it'd be almost 2-3 foot long. Here's my little stopper. If you're using the beads for a stopper and you need to fish deep, don't use a knot, because the knot will go much better onto the reel and through the guides. Hope that helps too, because I found that out through experience. With that bead, it'll slip too much if you have to fish really deep. But yeah, the float will just basically lay like that when you're on the bottom. Get it right off the bottom, up and down. That's it. Simple rig. Not much tackles needed. Hope you catch them up, and everybody stay safe.